Hi, today's episode of We Are Only One is brought to you by mountgox.com, mtgox.com, and The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. And the site for that is thankyoueconomybook.com. Hi everyone, I'm Jude Byrne, the host of We Are Only One. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about the importance of intuition, following your intuition, and what happens when you don't. We've got a great guest who's an intuitive life coach, Jennifer Alhasa, and we're going to be chatting with her. But I followed my intuition today, and it told me, many of you know that I'm a sound healer and I do drumming and Reiki and ceremonies. And I thought today we'd open the show with a little drumming meditation to kind of clear out anything that might be an obstacle to our full enjoyment of the day and to listening to our intuition and listening to our heart. So this is a buffalo drum with dolphins on it, and it's used in a lot of ceremonies to the Native Americans. Buffalo is the most sacred of all the drums. So just sit back. If you can, close your eyes. We're going to just, if you have anything in your body or anything that's hurting or causing any kind of discomfort, just let the sound go to that spot and it's going to dissolve it. So enjoy. Here we go. So now I'd love to officially introduce Jennifer Alhasa, who's an intuitive coach. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be here with you today, Jude.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Jennifer. And I wonder if you could tell us what led to your becoming an intuitive coach.
Well, I was always an intuitive little girl, and I can remember sort of knowing things and experiencing things on a different level in my heart and feeling them. But as an adult, I grew up and I stuffed my feelings, I stuffed my sadness, and I lost a lot of that intuition connection. And I was a young woman working an office job, and I smoked and I drank and I partied and I lived it up, and I didn't have an inner life. I didn't have a spiritual connection, and I lost all track of that. So I was keeping busy on the wheel of life and just really drowning myself and my sorrows that I was so cut off from. I was so cut off from my own pain and numbing my senses. So I didn't even know that I was missing a spiritual life, and it was been through my own awakening to that I recovered my intuitive nature and got back to my inner child and the senses that I always experienced then.
Yeah, it's easy sometimes to get distracted and lose track. But tell me how you use it as a guide, in your life. Sure.
Well, now I'm at the point, now that I'm really tapped in and tuned into my intuition, that I use it almost to make every decision, from what I'll eat to what train I'll take. So just for example, this morning, I had in my mind the route I would take that I got from Hopstop to come here to the studio today. And then as I was walking and I was going to turn right, I heard, no, go straight. Take the 7 instead of the F. So I walked and went to the 7, and I didn't know why. And sometimes that's the interesting part about it, is you don't know why. You don't know what you'll either be getting or missing by making that turn or not making that turn. But I ended up taking the 7 and had a wonderful mariachi band grace me on that train. And it got me really excited and awake. And there was a stand-up bass on the train, and I loved it. And it got my foot tapping. And who knows, maybe I was just supposed to have this music. Maybe I was supposed to get down here when I did. Got me to a cafe, and I was sitting drinking a coffee, and Ricky Gervais from The Office walked by, and we had a little moment of eye contact. So it was like everything that I did today led me to that. And I'm sure I would have had other experiences had I taken the F, but it was just like that, just listening in day-to-day moments, what to eat, where to go, what to wear. I mean, for me now, everything comes from my heart and tuning in instead of my mind.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, you hit a couple of things. When we do listen and we're in the flow, like you ran across a friend because you took that direction. And I remember the Celestine prophecy where he said, when you follow the flow, people are going to appear that have messages for you. And life is going to unfold in a magical way if we're open to that and we're tuned into that. And there are many ways, like I use the drumming and sound to kind of clear when it gets little energetic obstacle course, to clear it. And I wonder, what do? You know, you said you were living a wild life and kind of numbing yourself out a little bit. And I think many of us have gone through that phase in life. And what could you share with our listeners about what led you to fine-tune your listening to the intuitive voice?
Sure. Well, I think it was just meditation is the first thing that I started with. You know, part of my journey was that I got diagnosed with cancer and was awakened to this huge door of spirituality. In order to heal myself, I needed to heal my soul and heal my inner ache. You know, what was the original pain that was lost? And through that, I started exploring different parts of spirituality, and meditation was the first stop on that train for me. So Buddhism and meditation and just sitting. I mean, it had been years since I sat and lit a candle and listened to music and, you know, just opened to that. And then it's gotten more and more progressive. I think as you do it more, you'll hear more. You know, at first I would sit there and think, well, nothing's really happening. This is uncomfortable. What the heck? You know, I don't understand what's the benefit of this, right? What am I doing down here? But then I would find a right CD and, you know, the right piano music maybe would open me up to, oh gosh, I really loved playing the piano. And it's just certain things would just open me deeper, deeper, deeper. And like everybody always says, it's a practice, right? I mean, it's something that comes more and more the more you do it. So it's like, and there are days where I will forget. I mean, I'll wake up, I'll jump out of bed, I'll grab the laptop in bed and read email and forget to start my day with that tuning in. And then it's like, doesn't feel good, right? It starts to feel uncomfortable and I'm not listening, I'm listening to the ego, and the ego is driving me in a really different direction than my heart might. So then I'll just take a bath, and that's a really important step for me too. As a Pisces and as an intuitive person and an empathic person, like I pick up energy from everyone and from everything and all around me. So if I spend too much time with technology, I really need to take a bath and cleanse and with salt water and just really get that out. And then sit down in meditation, and it's like, it can be a real exercise for me to not go right back on the computer, right? Like, because we're so plugged in and we're so technologically focused to say, stay down there. Stay down there until you hear something, right? That's what I do, until I hear something move. And then it'll be like, then I'll get these divine ideas, right? Like, change this copy on your website. I mean, really important messages come to me that I would miss. You know, sometimes when you're trying to find a book title or you're trying to write some copy for your website and you're really pushing the river is what I would say, and you don't have the answer and you're like working it a little too hard. If I just take a step back and take a bath and then sit down, the answer comes to me like a gift from heaven, you know? So that listening has really been important, and it's just developed more and more. I think the more you listen, the more you're talked to.
Yes. There's a old native program, proverb, in a program that a prosperity consciousness program that I took, and it says, be still, be silent, or your tongue will make you deaf. You know, and so when we when we stop our talk, our chatter, and listen, and like you said, put ourselves in a space that's conducive to listening and getting that guidance. We all have it inside. I think we forget about it sometimes, that we have it, all the answers that we need when we get in touch with the divine source and the guidance. But I find the intuitive road to be one of the highest, you know, and intimately connected with the path of the heart. I wondered, when you say you are an intuitive coach, how do you tune into people to help them? What do you do personally when you're counseling somebody?
Well, that's a great question, thank you. So when I meet someone, or I'll do it over the phone, I'll either meet with them in person or do it over the phone. What I usually do is just have a conversation like we might be having, and they'll describe their problem or their issue. So you might come to me and say you want to work on birthing a book, right? And then we'll start talking about the book and what that looks like to you. And then I'll get information sort of from my knowing, right? I'll know, well, these are the steps in like the life path you should take. But then I'll also simultaneously be hearing information. And the only way I know how to say it is to say it like that. Like I'll hear a piece of information and it won't necessarily make sense to me. Like I might hear, well, what about California or something, you know? And like, then if the person is in a place, I might say to them, well, I'm hearing something, would you like me to share that with you? Because there are some clients, you work with who are very open and very spiritual and very deep into the woo-woo, if you will, like very open to that. Yeah, exactly. And they want that, they're hungry for that and they work with me because that's what they want. And then there's some people who are dipping their toe in that water, right? And I might say, well, I'm hearing something, and that was a big learning for me because I'm always getting information, right? Because I'm empathic, like I might meet someone and see them and know things about them instantaneously, but I don't share that with them, so it's been a learning for me how to work with that energy and to respect the information and to ask and therefore it is given, wait for the permission. So it's on two levels, I think I coach people with what I have learned, what I've gone through, and the wisdom that I've picked up on my path of study, and then also my intuitive. So it's a combination of the intuition and then the life coaching from a perspective of study and wisdom that has been gained on my path and through my experiences.
Mm-hmm. Like yourself, I'm also an empath, and Bruce, the CEO of Only One TV, and I heard a speaker who wrote a book called Emotional Freedom, and she talked about different personality types and how key it was energetically to know your type. And empaths in particular, she said, you will get a lot of messages and you need to be careful not to overload your circuits. I found that really good advice for people who really are tuned into to getting that guidance, to be mindful of, to take a break. Like if you're doing intuitive work, it is like you said, take a bath, either actually physically or metaphysically, and cleanse yourself.
Definitely.
And something else that struck me too, how you start your day is key. We here at the studio, of course, love the internet and it's a wonderful source of connection all over the world with people, and sharing with lovely guests like you. And every week we are sending out good vibrations to people that we wouldn't necessarily meet in another way. But we also know that balance is really key. In life, and to do things that are, like for me, getting out in nature is very key. Connecting with the earth and really feeling the earth and going barefoot. I mean, there was a lot of wisdom in earth wisdom that is showing up now that we're disconnected, with the balance of our natural ways. And I think that helps people. I know it helps me to get back to my intuition, is to not get so caught up, but to start the day centered with a prayer or a meditation or some physical activity outside if possible, to feel that pulse.
Yes, and I was recently read something about earthing, which is this whole movement where there are cultures who don't have any illness because the indigenous people go barefoot. So, if we can ground ourselves and like really take your shoes off, get your feet in the grass,
Yes.
or on the sand, even 5 minutes a day, like the health benefits to that. I mean, there's something about neutralizing the magnetic charge. I'm not sure about the science, but just the grounding and that touching into our primal nature. It's both good for health and for our spirit. So it's a win-win-win.
Yes, and I've heard some doctors speak of that, how key that is. One simple thing of going barefoot, that really kind of reconnects us and can help. And that part of why there are some challenges are the materials in the shoes are not letting us get through and making that connection. So we're disconnecting, from one of our home bases, and simple things like that. But if we're not mindful or tuned in, we might not know that.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes in New York you can feel like, it's far away, right? But it's really not. I mean, even if you just hug a tree, literally, like touch the tree, they'll impart their wisdom and they'll impart that groundedness. So sometimes, I'll stop on the street and hug the tree and, sometimes care if somebody's watching and other times not. But it's like, it really does ground us and help us remember from whence we came. And, I was a little girl in Iowa. I grew up playing in my garden and playing with the ladybugs and making mud pies and having my hands in the dirt. And I didn't remember that for years. I mean, it took me years to remember that I missed that and that experience. So that has been a huge part for me, is reconnecting with that nature.
Yes, I go to Central Park every day if I can, and
Wonderful.
and I just talk to the trees and the rocks. I mean, feeling the life pulse, only one TV. We are only one is all sentient beings, all. The life force of everything, giving thanks to the earth and, not just the two-leggeds and the four-legged friends that we have, but the beauty of it all. And I think New York is such an amazing city with vitality and creativity, and it goes at such a pace sometimes that we can get distracted from the center of reconnecting. And so we encourage all our New York listeners, go hug a tree today, or say hi to a flower.
Or a dog or a squirrel or a bird, whatever you see out there.
Right.
Whatever you come across in your path. I mean, that's what, like you said, we're all one. All of us.
Yes. I have very good friend who's working on a book on the benefits of juice feasting, Dr. Eddie, and she is also kind of she's a holistic nutritionist, but she's also a life coach, and she has a phrase called "fill your love bucket." That's her trademark, your love bucket, and doing things like that. Really feeling the connection with nature, being mindful, like simple things we can do every day. What gives you joy? Making it a point out of your busy day to connect with things that get you back in touch with your inner child and the purity of the joy of the beauty of who we are.
Definitely.
And one of the things that you also do is I understand you work with your sister. You have is it a talk show or?
It's an online advice column, so it's called Dear Soul Sister. So my sister Laura lives in Seattle, Washington, and she called me one day out of the blue and said, "Oh my God, I had this idea. We should write a spiritual advice column." And then it just took off from there, and it was so natural, and it was, we both sort of awakened in different ways. I awakened through cancer, and she always says motherhood was my cancer. Like, it awakened her to her anger and to her emotions and to the things that she hadn't been feeling. And then we both went along our paths, but then just earlier this year, we started Dear Soul Sisters. So we give inspired, insightful, and informed advice to readers so they can write in for free. We're like Dear Abby of the New Millennium, and people can send in their conundrums, anything from, prosperity questions to difficulties dealing with guilt, some Sunday school. We had a Sunday school situation that we helped someone with recently. So whatever people are dealing with, there's a lot of people struggling with prosperity consciousness and how to birth that into their lives. There's a lot of people sort of being restructured in life, right? And how do they get going if they've lost a job, or how do they go after their big dreams? So we've been helping people, and it's really been wonderful.
I want to stop you there because
Sure.
I'm sure you have a list. I'd like you to comment further on prosperity consciousness because that is very challenging for
Sure.
people. What do you say to people right now?
So what we said to the latest person, her question was, where's my prosperity, right? Looking around the world, it's like she's done a lot of inner work. She changed her spending habits. Maybe she's not accumulating as much debt as she used to, but she still hasn't birthed her prosperity in a way that she would like to. And so we sort of talked about how prosperity isn't just your bank account, and it's not just your credit score, that it's a consciousness, right? Like, even if the economy might be in the toilet globally, there's still people making money, right? And what is that? What do they got going on that you don't, right? So, like, what is their secret, that
Yes.
they've got? So we talked about starting from a place of gratitude, really having her look in her life and make a list of 3 things that she was grateful for now, right? And to get into that flow of gratitude really opens you to like everything you do have. Because I think sometimes when we're thinking about prosperity, we can get into a lack consciousness, just thinking, I don't have this yet, right? But it was like, so we started with the gratitude, and then to just make a list, like a list of maybe 5 things that prosperity, getting ahead, means to you. Like, to some people it might mean a big house, and to other people it might mean traveling. So what does it uniquely look like to you? I think it's really important. So make a list of 5 to 10 things that are really important to you. To have, a travel fund or an apartment or whatever it is that you would like to birth in your life. And then you can start defining it on your terms.
Great. I want to take a break, speaking of
Sure.
prosperity consciousness, to thank our sponsors. And then I want to get back to gratitude and the high vibration that brings in.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So, without further ado, we would like to thank Mt. Gox, ntgox.com. Mt. Gox is the largest online exchange service for Bitcoins. They now take euros, the British pound, the Australian dollar, and 16 plus currencies at the moment. And you can buy them from the comfort of your own home. And I highly recommend them. I use them personally myself. Full disclosure. And The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. That's just to spell the author first, Gary, V-A-Y space N-E-R space C-H-U-K. And the website for that is thankyoueconomybook.com. And he has his finger on the pulse of the shift that's happening, talking about consciousness, how businesses, to be competitive right now, are going back to making an emotional connection with the customer, like our grandparents did, to build loyalty, to provide better service. And he's got many ideas. He's combining the traditional ways with the modern social media and how to market your business. So we highly recommend that as well. I want to thank him for the Thank You Economy. So now we're back to gratitude. Ooh. Gratitude has so much energy, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. It shifts everything. And it's seems so simple, right? If you wake up every morning and you write down 3 things for which you are thankful, and you do that at the end of the day as well, you can really bookend your day and say, like, here's where I started, right? And then I think the Obamas do this around their dinner table, right? They do roses and thorns, but every day they do something that really good happened, and they share that as a family and talk about.
Oh, neat.
Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
What are we thankful for at the end of the day, you know? And
yes.
Instead of saying, like, gosh, all these things didn't go wrong for me today, just say, like, let's talk about the 3 things that did. You know, I got this piece of business accomplished on my website. I found really great food at the store. You know, I had a great conversation with my friends. Simple things like that can shift your energy into love. I mean, and that's what I've been feeling lately, and I know a lot of people are talking about this now. There are really 2 choices. There's love or fear, and that's it, you know, out there. There's love or there's fear. So what can get you into fear is thinking about what you don't have, thinking about what didn't go right, thinking about what you need, and you would be happy if you only had it, right? But if you can get into gratitude, it drops you into love. I mean, it drops you into, I have this, I have these friends, I have this bounty of goodness that I've forgotten about. So for me, that's what really helps, is to remember everything I do have instead of focusing on what I don't.
I couldn't agree more. And how easy that is to shift and to choose again and to look at whatever it is that is a blessing. And there are so many that we take for granted. Even having, you know, running water. How much of the world doesn't have that clean drinking water? But I so agree with you, and I've heard several people say, to really raise your vibration, take your wildest fantasy or your dream or what you feel your heart's desire, what would really truly fulfill your heart's desire, and to put yourself in that it's the next day after the frame of mind that it's just happened to you, and how do you feel? And you feel fantastic, you know, and you feel so happy. And what it does, as we're saying, it raises your vibration to a point where you're in a different space. You're not as dense. When we're complaining or out of sorts, we're at a lower vibration. And so we're more dense. And so we create obstacles to our good by our attitude. And when we are thankful, the gratitude, and we're seeing that it's happening, we're vibrating at a much higher place, and things happen quicker that way, and you draw your good to you, you know. It seems like a simple thing that we all have at our disposal, yet we're not tuned into it, you know. Again, we get distracted.
Sure.
But I had something happen to me recently, and I wanted to share it with you.
Oh, great.
I had a situation that could have potentially been very adversarial in my life. And of course, initially there was a reaction on a denser note.
Yeah.
And it's something that you and I talked about a while ago. We were talking about intuition. And I decided to, instead of looking out for my good, I prayed for the highest good for both parties involved, you know. And what happened was a very amicable solution.
Oh, wonderful.
And I know energetically, had I not been blessed to be in that frame of mind, it would have had a very different outcome. It would have been much more stressful, and it might not have had the same benefits to both parties. And, you know, and it was something that you and I discussed about mutuality and how key it is in life when we are connected and realizing our interconnections, that it's for the good of us, not the good of me or the good of you, but it's we are only one. It's for our good, you know. And that was just happened to me 2 days ago.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that.
Very, very exciting. Yeah.
That reminds me of when my husband and I moved back to New York. we moved here like without furniture or jobs, and we didn't have anything that a person might need to get an apartment in New York. But we were trying, and we found this one apartment that we really liked, and we couldn't get it because we didn't have a guarantor that was willing to step up. And so we lost this one apartment, and I was attached to it for a day, and then I just realized, like, well, it's not our apartment, you know, just not meant to be. So then we went about subletting once we realized, like, okay, we don't have these things, we'll just sublet from someone, and found this apartment in Jackson Heights and went out to look at it. And it was, I mean, it was so divine. We walked in and the apartment was all green, and the woman said, "Oh, it's green for prosperity." And I just knew, like, oh, I was in the right place. And she was somebody who was tired of winter. She just needed to go live on the beach and go back to Florida, and she needed somebody to take her whole apartment now. And she sold us everything in her apartment for $400. So like bed, furniture,
Wow.
everything, pots, pans, I mean, everything. And then we sublet it, and we had enough cash to prepay for the 9 months of the sublet. And nobody said, like, you don't have jobs, you don't have receipts, nothing. It was just like cash. And we got everything we needed. And it was so divine because it was like she needed to give this stuff to somebody, right? She couldn't take it. She couldn't deal with it anymore. Mm-hmm. She had to go, like the next day go. Mm-hmm. And we just happened upon her. And like there were books. I mean, there were The Millionaire Mind was in there. There were spiritual books. She was like, "Have you read The Secret?" You know, and it was amazing to me that like this person was waiting for us as we were looking for her. So it was like mutually beneficial, and we got what we needed, and she got out of town. And it's just such a wonderful, like, if you can focus on the highest good, right? The highest good
Yes.
was that we got this apartment and that she got to leave.
Yes. So we have the ability to tune into that and you know, choose again. I find that very liberating, you know, to say, okay, not this way, this way.
Exactly. In each moment, right? Like,
Yes.
we can choose anew. It's an opportunity.
Yes, very much so. I wanted to just go back for a moment to your health challenge, because I know a lot of women especially deal with the challenge of breast cancer.
Sure.
And what did you find most helpful for you with that? Was it the meditation, or did you have a dramatic change in your lifestyle?
I did. I mean, what awakened me was I had a call with a psychic, actually, you know, and I was never open to this. I was kind of a cynical person at this point in my life. But when you're faced with a diagnosis, right, that's not very good, you kind of, it's a Hail Mary, right? Like, I'll try anything at this point. So,
Right.
and, you know, and it was wonderful. I mean, it was 2 days into it, and she just said, "This isn't about you dying. This is about you deciding whether or not you want to live." And for me, that's where I was, you know. That was my choice. And so that was like the kick in the butt. And I thought, well, of course I want to choose to live, don't I? And then I had to work through that, you know, really work through my feeling like, if life wasn't worth living, what was I doing here? And that was my path, is to decide that I wanted to be here, and to decide that the way I had created my life wasn't fulfilling. So, I mean, it took me a long time. I mean, part of my journey was, you know, to go through the traditional treatment of chemo and radiation, and I had a lumpectomy, and to go through 9 months of, you know, really, really intense medical stuff that started like the next week. I mean, there's not much time in that process. So it's like a roller coaster ride. You just kind of get on and hang on. But then the other piece was to really, I had to grieve the life that I had to let go of. And I know that might sound crazy, but it's like, if you're in a life where all your friends go out and all your friends drink and all your friends party, and that's all I really knew for a long time, I had to grieve that person, right? And and trade coffee, you know, for going out drinking, and walk around the lake. And some relationships didn't survive that period, and others grew and blossomed in ways that I'm so blessed and grateful for. Just changing my whole life. I mean, pretty much. It was a slow transformation in some ways, but if you look back, I mean, it was a quantum leap, is what I would say it was. It was a quantum leap. And then the spiritual piece kept coming back, and that deepened and deepened and deepened. And, you know, I went through all kinds of classes, and I've just studied all different things. But I think for me, it's like really tuning in to your heart again. It's like disease is really just a symptom, an external manifestation of something going on. And, you know, cancer is a very loaded subject, and there's all kinds of things going on, from the environment, you know, to things we eat, things are in our world. Who knows what causes it, you know? And for me, I didn't focus on any of that. I just focused on, here it is, I've got it, and now what can I do? What power can I seize? Because this is my choice now, you know? And another thing that I found really helpful was to completely ignore statistics and to completely ignore all the fearful information that's out there on the internet. And some people really need to know what's in the medicine they're taking. Some people really need to know, like, what are the possible side effects of this treatment. I just went on faith. I mean, I completely believed that I was healed and saw myself as healed, and then just said, I have to walk these steps. You know, I'm just going to walk these steps and get through it. And it was 9 months. I mean, it was very, very difficult, very, very brutal. I mean, chemo is one of the hardest things I can imagine going through, you know, and to just focus on it, though, like, you know, like they would put a chemical in me that was like red dye number 5, right, that you might dye your shoes with, and that kills pretty much everything in you. But I just choose to look at it as like this magic lemonade, right? I didn't look at it and I didn't think about it. So for me, it was a complete mental choice and a leap of faith, and really tuning into, like, seeing the end result, right? Seeing it as positive without ever holding the option that it couldn't be. You know, I sort of just said, well, that's it. I'm better.
Right.
I just got to go through this to get there.
Right.
So that was what really helped me.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And look at you now.
Look at me now. You know, it's been 7 years, and even now I don't.
7 years.
7 years. I'm not the kind of person who participates so much in that life and in that world. I mean, for me, it was a catalyst, right? And
Understand.
I know some people, it's really helped them to stay active in that community and do walks and do things. And I totally appreciate and support that path. But for me, it's been a catalyst, and the spirituality for me has been the most important thing that came out of that. So really tuning into my nature and who I am, and to stay focused on that, right? Because it can be a nice, wonderful reminder for me. Like, here's what happened in one instance when you didn't stay connected to your heart, and you don't want to lose that again, you know?
Yes.
For me, that's what it serves, as a beautiful reminder to stay tuned in.
Well, that's a wonderful message, too. And
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
You know, and also showing that you got quiet and you followed your own guidance, and you had faith that, and no doubt, there we go.
Yeah, no
Coming
doubt.
out on the other side just fine, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And we all have that inner wisdom, and we can get in touch with it using a variety of things we've been talking about today, and
Sure.
listening to our heart, and quiet voice, and doing healthy things, eating healthy things, meditating, whatever it is that gets you in the zone. You know, for me, as I mentioned before, drumming does that, prayer, meditation, meditating out in nature, and just sitting there, sitting on a bench or walking through the park and just observing all of it, you know, feeling it, that we are all one and we're all interconnected. You know, it's a real treat. And I'd like to kind of do a little meditation to close us out.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
Would you share your site with people?
Sure, I'm on Jennifer Alhasa, JENNIFER, Alhasa, ALHASA.com, and you can come there and you can see about intuitive coaching, you can see about Get Glowing, my radio show, and also a link to Dear Soul Sisters. So hope to see you, JenniferAlhasa.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, glowing. That's
Get glowing.
Glowing. Get glowing. That's Jennifer's tagline. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
So, shall we glow with the little?
Let's glow with
Let's
the drum.
glow.
Woo!
So we want to thank everybody for tuning in today, and we're sending you dolphin love. Dolphins are totally tuned into their intuition.
Yeah, wonderful.
And thanks again, Jennifer. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jude. It's been wonderful to be here.
Great. Have a blessed week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Tell me how you use it as a guide, in your life.
Sure. Well, now I'm at the point, now that I'm really tapped in and tuned into my intuition, that I use it almost to make every decision, from what I'll eat to what train I'll take. So just for example, this morning, I had in my mind the route I would take that I got from Hopstop to come here to the studio today. And then as I was walking and I was going to turn right, I heard, no, go straight. Take the 7 instead of the F. So I walked and went to the 7, and I didn't know why. And sometimes that's the interesting part about it, is you don't know why. You don't know what you'll either be getting or missing by making that turn or not making that turn. But I ended up taking the 7 and had a wonderful mariachi band grace me on that train. And it got me really excited and awake, and there was a stand-up bass on the train, and I loved it, and it got my foot tapping. And who knows, maybe I was just supposed to have this music. Maybe I was supposed to get down here when I did. Got me to a cafe, and I was sitting drinking a coffee, and Ricky Gervais from The Office walked by, and we had a little moment of eye contact. So it was like everything that I did today led me to that, and I'm sure I would have had other experiences.
And to listening to our intuition and listening to our heart. So this is a buffalo drum with dolphins on it, and it's used in a lot of ceremonies. To the Native Americans, buffalo is the most sacred of all the drums. So just sit back. If you can, close your eyes. We're going to just, if you have anything in your body or anything that's hurting or causing any kind of discomfort, just let the sound go to that spot, and it's going to dissolve it. So enjoy. Here we go. to officially introduce Jennifer Alhasa, who's an intuitive coach. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
Hi, today's episode of We Are Only One is brought to you by mountgox.com, mtgox.com, and The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. And the site for that is thankyoueconomybook.com. Hi everyone, I'm Jude Byrne, the host of We Are Only One. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about the importance of intuition, following your intuition, and what happens when you don't. We've got a great guest who's an intuitive life coach, Jennifer Alhasa, and we're going to be chatting with her. But I followed my intuition today, and it told me, many of you know that I'm a sound healer and I do drumming and Reiki and ceremonies. And I thought today we'd open the show with a little drumming meditation to kind of clear out anything that might be an obstacle to our full enjoyment of the day.
Experiences had I taken the F, but it was just like that, just listening in day-to-day moments, what to eat, where to go, what to wear. I mean, for me now, everything comes from my heart and tuning in instead of my mind.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, you hit a couple of things. When we do listen and we're in the flow, like you ran across a friend because you took that direction. And I remember the Celestine prophecy where he said, when you follow the flow, people are going to appear that have messages for you. And life is going to unfold in a magical way if we're open to that and we're tuned into that. And there are many ways, like I use the drumming and sound to kind of clear when it gets little energetic obstacle course, to clear it. And I wonder, what do? You know, you said you were living a wild life and kind of numbing yourself out a little bit. And I think many of us have gone through that phase in life. And what could you share with our listeners about what led you to fine-tune your listening to this?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be here with you today, Jude.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Jennifer. And I wonder if you could tell us what led to your becoming an intuitive coach.
Well, I was always an intuitive little girl, and I can remember sort of knowing things and experiencing things on a different level in my heart and feeling them. But as an adult, I grew up and I stuffed my feelings, I stuffed my sadness, and I lost a lot of that intuition connection. And I was a young woman working an office job, and I smoked and I drank and I partied and I lived it up, and I didn't have an inner life. I didn't have a spiritual connection, and I lost all track of that. So I was keeping busy on the wheel of life and just really drowning myself and my sorrows that I was so cut off from. I was so cut off from my own pain and numbing my senses. So I didn't even know that I was missing a spiritual life, and it was been through my own awakening to that I recovered my intuitive nature and got back to my inner child and the senses that I always experienced then.
Yeah, it's easy sometimes to get distracted and lose track.